All right. So I don't know if Matthew has shared any extra details with you, but basically we're in the process of working on a book that kind of deals with American politics and culture. So we're trying to gather interviews from kind of average Americans to talk about stuff like the American dream and just gather kind of anecdotal stories and evidence to taking stock of where the average American is now. And part of why he wanted to interview you is because he was just so impressed with the service you provided. So I'm not surprised at all that you're one of the top SunTrust people. So he's been telling me for weeks, you have to interview Samira. So
oh, he's so sweet. He's so sweet.
Yeah. So to get started, if you could just state your name and just tell us a little bit about where you're from originally.
Sure. Okay. My name is Samira Jabar. I was born and raised in Sanford, Florida, and I'm first generation born here, and my nationality is Palestinian, actually. Oh. So my parents are from abroad, and so I'm, like I said, first generation born here. I really know no different other than in the United States and America. I've gone back to visit a few times, but only less than a handful of times. And, of course, there's a big culture difference. So, you know, I just different. It's just different.
Yeah. So both your parents are Palestinian?
Yes, and my husband, yes.
Okay. And when when did your parents immigrate here?
Well, it started with my grandparents. So it's been, I want to say, it's been at least around 50 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, if I was to estimate. So it's definitely from before I was born.
Yeah. And what did they do for work once they got to the States?
You know, back in the day, a lot of businesses or they were entrepreneurs for as long as I can remember. My family has always been an entrepreneur. So my grandfather and my dad would go around, door to door. They would wholesale. Wow, they would sell door to door back then. They would set up, as times went on, they would set up at flea markets and work those places on the weekends, and then they eventually opened their first business and then gradually expanded their businesses. So literally the American dream, if you will.
Yeah.
So they migrated over. They came into Denver, Colorado. They stayed there, I want to say, maybe a year or two. And then they moved into Florida, and we've been in Florida ever since.
So you're the right person to interview for this project.
Sort of, I guess. I know when Matthew had mentioned to me in the email what the book was about, and I'm like, yeah, I guess. I don't really have much to do with the American dream, I guess, but I guess my roots come from it.
Yeah.
So I don't know any different, because I'm the oldest of 5 from my parents. I started working when I was 8.
Wow.
So their very first business that they established was in Sanford, and I started working, I would wake up, go to school, then go to work, family business, and then go home. And then the cycle started all over again. So
and was that
I started working was that thing. We had a music store in Sanford, which eventually, as society changed and supply and demand changed, it changed out of like a music instrumental type store, instruments and things of that nature, into electronics and music, meaning it went from records to cassettes to CDs, and then we added electronics to the business.
Interesting.
And by the time I got in, it was doing all of that.
Yeah. So how did that eventually lead you to what you're doing now? A little bit of a different career.
Yeah, there is. Well, yeah, that's their first business. And like I said, I worked there for all the years. And then my dad decided he wanted to get into the convenience store business.
Okay.
So I want to say probably in my high school years, maybe my middle school years, he started opening up convenience stores. And his first one happened to be in Daytona Beach, Florida, and he ran that for a few years, then opened one in DeLand, Florida, and then bought 2 more convenience stores. And then he consolidated and kept the 2 convenience stores in Daytona and DeLand, and so I started taking care of the business in Sanford with my cousin and my grandma because, being underage, can't really run a business, but I was running the business with my cousin, and my grandmother was there who could not really read or write English, but she learned from watching TV, and so she was there as the adult figure, and we took care of the business, the deposits, the check writing, the bills, the ordering, all of that stuff. And then I got married. I got engaged right out of high school at 17, got married on my 19th birthday.
Wow.
And in my culture, when a girl gets married, she basically transitions over to the husband's side of the family. So what happened is my cousin at the time also started moving on, and my siblings, my actual brothers, were left in charge of the music store. Okay. And so my dad at the time, he's like, I can't really always depend on you. That's not fair to your husband. You can't keep working for us, or helping us forever. So I pulled back about a year's time, and then the business started kind of falling apart. And my dad's like, can you do me a favor? Can you go back in and see if it's salvageable? And at that time, I was probably 2 years into being married, and I told my dad, I said, that's not a problem, Dad. I'll do what I can. Let me go and see if I can help. Yeah. But my brothers didn't have the business sense, the entrepreneur sense, let's put it that way. So my dad, as painful as it was to me, and my dad, with it being their first business, they shut that business down. And the convenience stores survived because my dad was running those. And then I got pregnant and had my first child a couple weeks before I turned 22, and then did not work for about a year and a half of when he was born. And then in this country, I don't have to tell you, if you want to succeed and move forward, a one-income family is not going to do it.
Yes.
So, as much as I didn't really want to do it, I applied at SunTrust, and my family only banked with SunTrust, and I thought it was an easy thing, and I always thought I just was meant to be a teller. I know how to work with money, I was a teller, and I applied several times and kept getting rejected because I couldn't get past the gatekeeper, if you will.
Yes.
So finally one day my mom went in while we were making a deposit into the local bank in Sanford, and we knew everyone that worked there, and my mom said, you're missing out on a really good employee here. And the manager at the time said, what are you talking about? And she said, my daughter keeps applying, but you guys keep turning her down.
Yeah.
And she said, really? We didn't know that. Have her apply one more time. So I did, and they pulled my resume, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. And when was that?
22 years ago, April 15th of 1998.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
So that...
1996, excuse me, 1996.
Okay.
Yeah, 1996. Wow. Yeah.
So your story really segs well into our next question, which is, what does the American dream mean to you? And it sounds like you definitely have had a lot of relationship to that.
It is a struggle. What I find, and what I'm trying to instill in my children, is you make what you want out of this world. Nothing should be handed to you. Nothing really normally is handed to you, but where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. And, if you expect the sense of entitlement and you want to be lazy and you want things to come easy, then doors don't open for you, and you don't really you're struggling. You're always struggling. Yeah. My philosophy is my parents retired early, and I saw and I understood what it took and the sacrifices that were made, whether they were around or not around, for us. I saw the sacrifices that you needed to balance to have that luxury later in life. And, having my own children, this generation just doesn't seem, and it's not just my children, I see it in the bank clientele all the time, that they just don't understand it, they don't get it, and I feel like if you can't live a comfortable and sleepful night living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, you may say you're okay with that, but you can't convince me otherwise that if an emergency came up or something happened, that you'll manage. So it's the planning for the future. It's just being very strong, knowing what the priorities are, and what you should sacrifice, what you can afford to sacrifice, and what you can't. Because my husband and I, when we first got married, he was working for my family, only making $200 a week.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, we had no insurance, and I completed an AS degree in college, paying for all that on my own without, any financial support because I got married. And I had my first child without medical insurance.
Wow,
and it's the sacrifices that you make and the things that you have to not indulge in that make you where you want to be.
Right.
And it's tough. I'm not going to lie to you. It's tough. And we have a special needs daughter, and people wonder all the time how I can hold down a full-time job with 3 children, one of being special needs.
Yeah.
And again, it's the will. You've got to do what you need to do to make yourself a better person and plan for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like one of our next questions is whether you feel like you had access to this American dream, but it sounds like what you're saying is
opportunity.
That it has more to do with making your own opportunities. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
You make your own opportunity, and you need to fight for what you want. Yeah, just don't give up. You just don't give up, and you have to stay on it, and you have to be consistent. You really do. And that's part of my success is consistency and follow-up. And, I mean, you just got to do it. You have to have – and that's the other thing. If you don't have a goal, then what are you striding for? What is it that you're working for? I mean, you always have to change your goals. Like, all right, so my husband and I bought commercial property, and my goal is to have paid it off. We just paid it off last month. My next goal now is to pay. Thank you. And we bought the property. I was 25 years old. Not many 25-year-olds have commercial property.
Wow, yeah.
That now is paid off. And, again, that's rental income. I'm looking for our future. I don't want to work forever, Suzanne.
Right, yeah.
Contrary to what my clients think, I'm not working forever. And, then I move on to the next goal. My next goal, my husband's truck will be paid off in 2 months. And then my next goal, my mortgage. If you don't have a goal, what is it that you're working for? Well, that's what goes back to paycheck to paycheck. And I'm not going to be a paycheck-to-paycheck person. Yeah.
And do you feel that that the generations that are coming up behind you have the same level of access to that American dream or just to those opportunities?
They absolutely have the same level of choosing to follow their own opportunity, but they are not. They are not taking advantage of it. They are not. And my oldest is 23 years old, and he absolutely does not, in my opinion, he disagrees, but this is where we disagree. He is looking out for the future, and he understands what he needs to do, and he wants to will his way into the music industry. But I'm practical. And I'm saying at 23 years old, I didn't ask you to get married at 19 like me, but you're now 23 years old and working a part-time job and only paying for your car payment and your insurance if I'm lucky, and you still live with us.
Yeah.
So when are you going to wake up and realize maybe this isn't going to happen?
Yeah.
So I just feel like they're content. They live in a world of being content. And I don't know. I just don't see how that would never be me. But again, I'm a little weird because I'm the oldest of 5, and my other 4 siblings aren't like me.
Yeah.
So I call myself like an old soul, in a middle-aged year body, but I just have old traditions. I'm just old-fashioned, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I grew up too quick, you know.
Now, do you feel like that that shift that has occurred between your generation and your children's generation, why do you think that's occurred?
I honestly feel one of the biggest issues that I contended with was when I mentioned that this country can't be on a one-income family to survive.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, although it was a family-owned business, my mother and my aunt, because we were in a blended family, I remember them always being in the house when we were there.
Yeah.
But the absence of both parents seems to have, you know, bypassed the kids this day and age. So I feel that, number one, families aren't like they used to be anymore. Number two, these children are spoiled beyond belief. And I was not spoiled. I just knew that I had to help family. I never asked for a paycheck. I got clothing, shelter, food.
Right.
These children, you ask them to do a chore, well, the next thing out of their mouth is, I know I need to get a job. Well, are you asking me to pay you to do chores around the house? So it's the sense of entitlement. It's the selfishness. They're very selfish this day and age. And I just think that we give them too much. It's become a technology country. And that again, the social media, I am not a social media person.
Yeah.
I am dead against it. I think that, you know, when my 12-year-old has a new iPhone 7, yeah, that's a problem because he expected it.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a phone until I was 2 years into my career. I was 24 years old when I got my first cell phone. And so it's the priorities. I just think that they are lazy and there isn't enough family. We make it easy for divorce. We make it easy for, you know, my husband and I aren't perfect, but it's through better or for worse. And you what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You fight through your differences, and you come out learning. No, this generation, we disagree. We get divorced.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a shame. I wish that we could progress in this country with a one-income family, because I think that the children have suffered. I really do. I think that this generation has suffered because I don't think that they're having the family feel, and we just kind of leave them to the wolves, to school and home. Well, of course they're gonna migrate to social media and technology.
Yeah. So you feel like the biggest shift is really all of those traits that have changed are the result of shifts that happened in the nuclear family.
Yep. Yeah, I do. We need to go back to our basics. We really do. How
do you think we could address that as a nation? Like what is missing from kind of the economic or social model that would help us to address that one income family issue?
It just seems like in this country you have to have debt. It's always about debt. And so you're chasing income to cover debt. Now, whether that debt is a car payment, a mortgage payment, food, a phone bill, electricity, it just seems like the cost of living has astronomically gone up. Yet, you're working so hard to gain to have a gainful wages, but it just seems like it's a vicious cycle, and you're trying to teach your children this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, but in their mind, we're the ones suffering because we're working so hard and not, quote unquote, enjoying our lives.
Yeah.
So I just wish that, a lot of the technology would kind of slow down. We've given ourselves so much that we're dealing with fraud and hackers and, social media and just people getting in trouble with stuff like that. we're not focusing on what's important. Family values and, having a life within your house.
Yeah.
Everyone's so concerned about the outside. You need to worry about your inside first.
Yeah. Do you see that on an individual family scale or on a national scale as well?
I find that I see it more often than I'd like. So I don't think I think those that are fighting to keep it away are fighting harder than I just don't think they're going to win that fight, because it seems like the majority is going to win, which is where we're going with this new nuclear family type of characteristics. So as much as I say to my children, don't do social media, don't go on Facebook, don't, you need to work and have full 401k so you can retire early.
Yeah.
No matter how you cut it, there's still society out there that wants to, here's your new car and you can trade in, and here's a mortgage whether you can afford it or not, and and here's the theme parks, here's a vacation package, go on vacation. Well, let's bring it back into perspective.
Yeah.
You're talking about this generation who isn't contributing possibly to a 401k, may come from a dysfunctional family or going that way, going into a dysfunctional family, and that's just, you're setting them up to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So given those kind of generational shifts that have happened in the concept of the American dream, do you think that Americans have any unifying qualities?
I think we unify only when there's tragedy, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Only when there's tragedy. And I don't think that that's enough. I don't think that's enough. I just think that, yes, we do come together as a country, and we are empathetic and sympathetic, and we try to help when there is need and there's disasters, whether they be natural disasters or any kind of tragedy. But I just don't see how that's, when that moment passes, then we're back in the same cycle. We're back in the same viciousness.
Yeah. When you say viciousness, do you mean in terms of that, like, social media comparison, or in terms of political differences?
All of that. All of it. Oh, are you kidding? The political differences right now, currently, talk about divisiveness, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it all interlocks. It really does. It really does. I mean, when you have a president that tweets left and right, that's social media, and he's the leader of the country. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how can you reprimand children, and how are you going to try to teach them that this isn't important? Social media isn't important. Facebook, what you post on Facebook isn't important. It's going to come back and haunt you. But you have your leader of the country doing this.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. Well, that is all we have for you today.
I hope I was useful.
Definitely. You've lived such an interesting life. So I really appreciate your perspectives on things. And it's so great to hear the perspective of kind of a first generation born in the United States individual, because we haven't interviewed anyone that's in that same situation yet. Everyone we've interviewed has been kind of second or third. So
interesting.
So if you know anyone that would also have lots of thoughts on the American dream, or where we're at today, please feel free to pass along my information. And if you think of anything else that you'd like to add, we're always open to continuing the dialogue. So,
well, thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I can't wait to know when the book is out.
Yeah, and we'll let you know. We're probably just we're doing a ton of interviews, so we're probably just gonna kind of pick and choose different quotes and things like that. So we'll give you a heads up what's going to be in the book and when that's out.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
I really
have
appreciate
a good rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.